Hey, good morning, friends. It is Wednesday, June the 3rd. I am your host, Greg Miller, and this is the third edition of Beliefs, Ballots, and Bulldogs. And after 3 days in a row now, it's starting to roll off the tongue a little more naturally since we've had the rebrand. The word of the day comes from the book of Psalms, chapter 127, verse 1. Quite simply, the book of Psalms tells us, unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the guards stand watch in vain. Let me ask you a question, and that's simple. What are you building? What are you building? Not what are you doing, not what are you buying, not what are you posting. What are you building? Because whether you realize it or not, all of us, every single one of us is building something. We're building families, we're building careers, we're absolutely building reputations, friendships, relationships, communities, legacies. We're all building something. Most of us, and I fall into this category as well. Most of us, we spend our lives focused more on activity, and the Bible here, the psalmist is calling us to focus on construction more so than activity. Big difference in the two. Being busy, and I've said this for years, being busy doesn't mean being productive. We can all see this all around us. People that get overwhelmed with anxiety and they're just constantly moving 100 miles an hour in a million different directions. They are without question busy, but they ain't accomplishing nothing. They're not productive. Movement doesn't always mean progress, and activity doesn't always mean purpose. You could spend 20 years climbing the corporate ladder only to discover it was leaning up against the wrong wall. And now you've ended up somewhere you completely don't want to be and don't belong. The psalm here is fascinating in a way because it starts with a warning. It doesn't start with a promise. It starts with a warning. The psalmist isn't telling us don't build. He's just saying make sure that God is a part of what you're building. Because at the end of the day, you can make money, you can gain influence, you can achieve success, and you can still build things that don't ultimately last. It's crucial, especially in today's world with the way we reward things and everything's being monetized, to recognize success. Success and significance are not the same thing. Look around in our culture. People are obsessed with followers and clicks and likes and views and reposts and all this thing, and it's all power and attention. But very few people, I feel like, are actually asking themselves, hey, what am I creating? What is it that I'm putting out there? We're all producing more content than ever, but are we producing more wisdom? And look, as I stated yesterday, I get the irony of me being a guy who is now trying to project his voice out into the ether in the hopes that somebody will hear me and pay attention. But all I can tell you is I can assure you that my intentions are pure and my intentions are good. I really am doing this because I believe God is calling me to put this out there, just in the hopes that maybe I can connect with somebody, help somebody along the way. But what are you creating? We're all producing more content than ever. But are we producing more wisdom? We're more connected, very connected. We can't unplug, we can't disconnect. But are we building stronger relationships because of being constantly connected? Likely not. We're all more informed, but is that information accurate? Is that information useful? Are we using that information to become better people? More than likely not. It's a little odd to think about, but just because something is growing doesn't mean it's healthy. Cancer cells grow, bad things grow. So just because you can see growth in something doesn't make it inherently good or healthy. You think about this from a parenting standpoint. We all want our kids to be successful. We all want our kids to have a better life than we even had. And for me, that's going to be darn near impossible because Linda Miller and Ken Miller spoiled the crap out of me, and I had just about everything I ever wanted. Had the perfect life growing up as a kid, and I still turned out a total wreck because we all are. The world makes us that way. We all want our kids to be successful. We all want our kids to have a better life. That's understandable. But maybe the bigger question as we're raising our kids is what kind of adults are we building? And that's the one area that, look, through the challenges, and I thank God my parents supported me and have loved me through all the ups and downs of my life. But I feel like at least now I have come out to a side where they can see that the work they put in built a man of character and integrity and faith and responsibility and accountability. Those things didn't happen automatically or accidentally. Those were built. My parents are not saints and they're far from perfect, but they were placed in my life by God, and I believe everything is ordained, and they were exactly who I needed them to be for me to become who I am today. Children don't become what we hope for. They often become what we consistently model, and that's something we all need to be aware of. There's nothing wrong with building careers and things of that, nothing at all. But the question has to become, is that really the priority? What happens if you achieve everything professionally, but you lose everything personally? Your family's not there. Your wife's not supportive. Your kids aren't being raised right. The greatest tragedy in life isn't failure. I think it's rather succeeding at something that wasn't worth the time and effort. And frankly, you can succeed at something that you've committed your whole life to, and it may or may not be worth your life. And we have to think about that. The psalmist here is asking us, putting God at the center of everything, and all that is so commonsensical. But it's what remains when the temporary stuff is gone, like when the stuff that God was not a part of built up, because eventually jobs change. Trust me, money comes and goes, popularity fades. What do you have left? You've got faith, you've got your character, you've got your family, you've got your reputation, and the impact that you have had on people. And that's what leaves a lasting mark. It's nothing likely you've done professionally. The things that are built to last and the things that matter the most often take the longest to build. All right, guys, as we roll into the football slash UGA sports portion of the show, we got 94 days until UGA football. Can't wait till fall gets here and we are teeing it up between the hedges. 94 days is we're going with Quentin Moses as the number 94. Quentin was a great defensive player back in the Richt era in the early 2000s. Just a long, rangy defensive end. Wore number 94. It was a real big part. It felt like he was around Athens forever, but was a huge part of that early Richt tenure and the defensive identity those teams started to develop with Thomas Davis and Greg Blue and Odell Thurman and David Pollock. Quentin Moses was right there with him. He was a 4-year letterman. His best season was probably 2005. He was first team all SEC and helped us win the SEC championship over LSU that year. Moses Quentin went on to be a 3rd-round pick, hung around, bounced around a little bit in the NFL, but the real story about Quentin was, and it's a tragedy, but it was how he passed away. Quentin passed away back in 2017, I believe. He was 32, 33 years old. He died in a house fire in Monroe, Georgia. Actually, they said he died while trying to save others. He was trying to rescue other people and sacrifice his own life. So just, an elite, an Athens kid, an elite pass rusher, an SEC champion, NFL draft pick, and ultimately he's going to be remembered as somebody who gave the ultimate sacrifice and laid his life down to try to help others. So God bless Quentin Moses and his family. 94 will always have a special place in my heart. As for this year's number 94, Xavier McLeod's a guy that I think is going to kind of step into his own. I don't expect Xavier McLeod to be a household name across the landscape of college football by the year's end. But I got a sneaking suspicious Dog fans will get to know his name and be quite pleased with his contribution. He's a kid who's played a lot of football. He's bounced around a little bit, but he's a mature kid now. He showed some flashes last year in some big situations. I think it's time he'll step up and be a leader. Like I said, he's not going to be an ESPN Sports Center highlight guy. He's not going to be an early round draft pick. But I think he knows this is his time to step up and lead, and I think it's his time to probably earn an NFL paycheck. And so I think Xavier McLeod, number 94 on this year's team, will be a guy that flash. He'll be a guy you'll hear his name called, and we'll be glad to have him on the team. As we close up today, guys, it's we get back to the scriptural thing, and as I have aged and as I've experienced a lot more life, I've become less impressed with the way people can accumulate things, but more impressed with what they can build, how they've built out their families, how they've built their character and their reputation, their faith, their integrity. Those are the things that leave a legacy. And again, those things don't happen overnight, and they don't happen accidentally. One day we're all going to look back on our lives, and the question won't be, how busy was I, how much stuff did I accumulate, or anything like that. The ultimate question that you're going to ask yourself will be, what did I build? What did I build? It's a lot of question, it's a lot of thought, and we all need to spend some time thinking, what are we building? What are we building that's going to last? What are we building that's going to remain? And as the psalm tells us, unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. That's it for today's show, guys. As always, get in your Bible, say your prayers, love one another, and tell the truth. God bless.